There is a girl in Los Angeles right now who has decided that kindness is for people who lose. She is 20-something years old, she has a last name that opens every door in the fashion world, and she has just discovered that the fastest way to become powerful is to make sure everyone around her is afraid. Somewhere else in that same city, a mother is pacing her living room floor, replaying a conversation with her son that went nowhere, wondering if the boy she raised is about to make the same mistake his father made 20 years ago. And an ocean away, in a penthouse suite that still smells like champagne and heartbreak, a marriage is quietly falling apart between two people who used to believe nothing could touch them. A woman everyone thought was gone has resurfaced exactly where she shouldn't be. A man is about to fly across the world chasing forgiveness he isn't sure he deserves. And two people who never should have ended up alone together are about to make a decision they can't take back. None of them know it yet, but the next 2 weeks are going to rewrite every relationship in this story, and by the time the dust settles, at least one of them is going to lose someone they thought they'd have forever. What makes this stretch of story different from the ones that came before it isn't the scale of the drama, it's the timing. Every single one of these people is standing at the exact moment where a small choice, one sentence, one night, one confrontation they could have avoided, quietly becomes the choice that defines the next chapter of their life. Nobody wakes up planning to destroy their marriage or betray their best friend. That's not how it actually happens. It happens in the in-between moments, the ones that feel small while you're living them, and enormous once you look back. And that's exactly the kind of story we're stepping into right now. If you've spent any time with us before, you already know how this goes. I'm Adam, and this is Buzz Delight, the place where we don't just tell you what happened on Bold and the Beautiful, we pull it apart and show you why it happened, what it costs, and who's gonna bleed for it. If that sounds like your kind of storytelling, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now, tap the like, and share this with someone who needs to be caught up, because I promise you, this next stretch of story is one of the messiest, most emotionally loaded chapters this show has given us in a long time. Now let's get into it. The girl I mentioned is Electra Forrester, and the reason she matters right now is that she has just been handed something she has never had before. Real power inside the family business, and a partner in crime who is more than happy to help her wield it like a weapon. That partner is R.J. Forrester, and together they are about to become the most dangerous pairing at Forrester Creations. Not because either of them is evil, but because both of them are wounded in ways that make cruelty feel like justice. The mother pacing her floor is Katie Logan, and the son she's worried about is Will Spencer, a young man caught in a triangle that's about to detonate between the woman he can't have anymore and the woman who's been quietly falling for him the entire time. And the marriage crumbling overseas belongs to Steffi Forrester and Finn Finnegan, two people whose bond has survived scandal after scandal, but may not survive the one thing that keeps coming back no matter how many times they think they've buried it. Finn's mother, Sheila Carter. Let's start where the wound is freshest, because that's where the truth usually lives. Steffi and Finn are still in Monte Carlo, and the fallout from what happened there hasn't even begun to settle. Sheila followed them. She tracked her own son and his wife across an ocean, inserted herself into their vacation, and Finn knew. He knew, and he said nothing, and now that silence is doing more damage than the actual sighting ever could have. Ridge Forrester and Brooke Logan have found out, and they are not being gentle about it. Ridge, in particular, has never trusted Finn the way Steffi has, and now he finally has the evidence to justify every doubt he's ever carried. He corners Finn, and it isn't a conversation, it's an interrogation, one father protecting his daughter with the kind of controlled fury that comes from years of watching people hurt her. Brooke joins in, and between the two of them, Finn is left standing there, absorbing blow after blow, and the worst part is he can't even defend himself, because they're right. He should have told her. He didn't. And now he has to live with what that silence has already cost him, because somewhere in that hotel, Steffi has seen the look on his face, and Finn knows that particular image is going to haunt him for the rest of his life. It's the look of a woman realizing she can't fully trust the person she married. Ridge doesn't even know if he can reach his own daughter right now. Steffi has gone quiet, and he's terrified of what her silence means. Is she protecting herself the way she always has, building walls before anyone can see her break? Or is she already further gone than any of them realize? There's something worth understanding about why Ridge reacts to Finn this way, harder and faster than most fathers would. It isn't really about Finn at all. It's about every version of heartbreak Ridge has watched his daughter survive over the years, every time he stood on the sidelines unable to stop the damage before it landed. Anger, for Ridge, has always been easier to sit with than helplessness. And Brooke understands that fury in a way most people wouldn't, because she has spent decades learning exactly what it feels like to watch someone you love get hurt by a secret that should have been told the moment it happened. That's why she doesn't soften a single word when she goes after Finn. She isn't punishing him for what Sheila did. She's punishing him for the silence, because silence, in this family's history, has never once been harmless. While all of that is exploding in one part of the hotel, something far more dangerous is simmering in another. Carter Walton and Steffi end up alone together, both of them drunk on the kind of emotional exhaustion that makes people reckless. Carter's marriage to Daphne is unraveling for reasons that have nothing to do with love and everything to do with fear, and Steffi is convinced her own marriage might already be over. Two people who believe they have nothing left to lose are about to comfort each other in a way that blurs a line neither of them should be anywhere near. Steffi tells Carter everything: the Monaco sighting, the years of Sheila circling her family like a predator that never quite gets caught, the exhaustion of protecting her children from a woman who refuses to disappear. And Carter listens, really listens, in a way that feels dangerously good after weeks of being pushed away by his own wife. He tells her about Daphne, about rings handed back, about a marriage that might be ending before it even had a real chance to begin. Neither of them means for this to become anything. But loneliness has a way of turning comfort into something that looks a lot like intimacy, and by the time the night is over, something has shifted between them, something small enough that they could both pretend it didn't happen, and large enough that it absolutely will not stay buried. Steffi goes home to sober up, but sobering up doesn't make the pain go away, it just makes it sharper. She's sitting there in her bathrobe, hollowed out, when her mother Taylor Hayes walks in and immediately knows something is wrong. Steffi doesn't have to say a word. Taylor has spent a lifetime learning to read her daughter's silences. And then there's a knock at the door, and it's Deacon Sharp, arriving with coffee and pastries, looking for Taylor, completely unaware that he's about to walk into the middle of a family crisis. When he hears that Sheila tracked Finn and Steffi all the way to Monte Carlo, his reaction is immediate disbelief, because even by Sheila's standards, this is an escalation. Deacon has history with Sheila that most people in this story don't fully understand. A strange, complicated tether that makes him one of the few people who can predict exactly how far she's willing to go. And the answer, apparently, is further than anyone thought. Meanwhile, Finn is on a plane, and he is not handling the flight well. He is running the last 24 hours over and over in his head, and somewhere over the Atlantic, he says the words out loud to no one, the kind of thing you only admit when you think nobody's listening. He has to get to Steffi before it's too late. He doesn't know if that's still possible. He lands in Los Angeles and goes straight into damage control, showing up desperate to explain himself, desperate to be forgiven for a lie of omission that feels, to Steffi, like a betrayal all its own. Taylor may end up standing between them, not as Finn's ally, and not entirely as Steffi's shield either, but as the one person capable of translating pain into something the two of them can actually hear. Because right now, Steffi and Finn are speaking two completely different languages. He's speaking guilt, she's speaking grief, and until someone bridges that gap, neither of them is going to get through to the other. Finn's panic isn't really about winning an argument. It's about a fear that sits underneath everything he does when it comes to his mother. The fear that no matter how hard he tries to build a wall between Sheila and the people he loves, she will always find a way through it. And everyone he loves will keep paying the price for a relationship he never chose and can't fully control. He didn't tell Steffi about Monaco because some part of him hoped that if he just handled it quietly, if he just made Sheila disappear one more time without anyone noticing, he could spare his wife one more sleepless night worrying about a threat that never seems to actually go away. What he doesn't understand yet, what he may not understand for a long time, is that protecting Steffi from the truth is the one thing that hurts her more than the truth itself ever could. Steffi doesn't need Finn to shield her from Sheila. She needs him to stand next to her while they face it together, and every time he tries to carry that burden alone, he ends up proving to her, without meaning to, that she can't fully rely on him when it matters most. Now let's cross town, because there's a different kind of war brewing, and this one is happening inside a family instead of a marriage. Katie Logan has never been the type to sit quietly while someone she loves walks toward a mistake, and right now she is watching her son Will do exactly that. Will's relationship with Electra Forrester has collapsed, and in its place, something new has been growing, quietly, almost accidentally, with a young woman named Melissa Dillon, who everyone just calls Dylan. Katie doesn't trust it. She shows up at Will's beach house, and what starts as a check-in turns into something much sharper. She wants to know if Will still has feelings for Electra, and if he does, why on earth would he be getting close to her best friend? It's the kind of question that sounds protective on the surface and feels like an accusation underneath. And Will, who is already carrying enough guilt about how his relationship with Electra ended, doesn't take it well. Here's what Katie doesn't fully understand yet, or maybe doesn't want to understand. Will and Electra are over. Not almost over. Over. It still hurts him, because first loves always do, but he has made peace with it in a way his mother hasn't caught up to. And Dylan isn't some rebound distraction to him. She's someone who makes him feel steady in a way Electra never quite did, someone who doesn't come with drama attached to every conversation. Bill Spencer and Wyatt Spencer have already picked their side, quietly rooting for Will and Dylan to find their footing together, mostly because they've watched what Electra's orbit does to the people who get pulled into it. The only person they're missing is Katie, and until she comes around, this family is going to keep colliding with itself every time Will's name comes up at dinner. To really understand why Katie is digging in so hard on this, you have to understand what she's actually afraid of, and it isn't really about Dylan at all. Katie has spent her entire adult life watching the people she loves get burned by rushing into new relationships before the old wounds have even closed, and she has lived through enough of her own heartbreak to know exactly how convincingly a bad decision can disguise itself as a good one in the moment. When she looks at Will right now, she isn't just seeing her son. She's seeing every version of herself that once mistook urgency for love. The tragedy is that Will doesn't need protecting from Dylan. He needs his mother to trust that he's capable of learning from his own history instead of repeating hers. And right now, that trust is the one thing Katie isn't ready to hand over. But if you think Katie is the only one throwing punches this week, wait until you see what happens at Forrester Creations. Because Dylan's world is about to collide with Electra's in a way that has nothing to do with Will at all. With Daphne stepping back from her responsibilities, Dylan is being pushed back into her old role as Electra's assistant. And if you know anything about Electra Forrester right now, you know that is a recipe for disaster. Electra has just been handed a level of creative control she has never had before, courtesy of R.J. Forrester, who has decided that she is exactly the kind of bold, fearless face he needs for something he's building. And having R.J. in her corner has changed her. She's not just confident anymore, she's untouchable, at least in her own mind. And when Dylan pushes back on something, Electra doesn't hesitate to remind her exactly who holds the power in that building. She says it plainly, without apology, the kind of line that isn't a threat so much as a statement of fact as far as Electra's concerned. She is a Forrester, and if she wants someone gone, they're gone. Dylan isn't the type to back down quietly, though. She's loyal, sharper than people give her credit for, and she knows something Electra doesn't expect her to know, that RJ has been quietly shopping around a major new line to pitch to Ridge, the kind of project that could shift the entire power structure of the company. It's not a threat exactly, more like a warning shot, a reminder that Electra isn't the only one in that room who knows how to play this game. And that's the moment this rivalry stops being petty office friction and starts becoming something with real stakes attached to it, because Dylan just made it clear she's not going to be pushed around without pushing back. Underneath all of that ego and ambition, though, there's something more fragile happening with Electra that most people around her aren't seeing yet, because she's not showing it to anyone. Being handed this kind of power so suddenly, being told by RJ that she's the face of something new, something bold, something that could put her name above the door in a way it's never been before. It's intoxicating for someone who has spent her whole life being defined by other people's expectations. But intoxication and stability are not the same thing, and there is a version of this story where Electra's sudden rise becomes the very thing that isolates her from everyone who actually cares about her. While Electra is busy building her empire, RJ is quietly assembling his team, and his next move is bringing Zende Forrester into the fold. He's got a pitch ready, something ambitious enough to catch the attention of the entire company, a youth-driven line meant to pull Forrester Creations into a completely new generation of relevance, with Electra as its face and voice. He's planning to move on this before Ridge and Brooke even make it back from Monte Carlo, betting that momentum and surprise will work in his favor more than permission ever would. Zende is intrigued, genuinely intrigued, because an opportunity like this doesn't come along often, and it's exactly the kind of creative lane he's been hungry for. But Zende has his own condition, and it's a big one. He respects RJ's vision, but he has no interest in reporting to him like an employee. If this collaboration is going to work, it has to be a partnership, not a hierarchy. And that single condition is going to matter a lot more than anyone realizes once this project actually gets off the ground. Zende has watched enough ambitious people burn out chasing someone else's vision to know exactly what he's protecting by drawing that line early. He isn't trying to slow RJ down out of spite. He's trying to make sure that if this line succeeds, and it very well might, his name gets to mean something in the story of how it happened, instead of getting quietly absorbed into RJ's comeback narrative. That's a small detail now, one condition in an early conversation, but keep it in the back of your mind, because the moment this project starts generating real buzz inside the company, the question of who actually gets credit for it is going to become a lot more complicated than anyone sitting in that pitch meeting expects. There's a name being whispered around this new line already, something RJ and Electra have started calling it between themselves when nobody else is listening. Electra Forever. It's bold, it's a little arrogant, and it's exactly the kind of statement piece that tells you everything about the two people building it. This isn't just a product line to them, it's a declaration. It's Electra deciding that she is done being someone's shadow, and it's RJ deciding that he is done watching other people run this company while he sits on the sidelines. Together, they are betting everything on the idea that boldness beats permission. And if they're right, this could be the most dangerous creative alliance this company has seen in years. But strip away the name, the ambition, the sudden confidence, and what you find underneath is a young woman who has spent her whole life standing in the shadow of a legacy she didn't choose and a family name she's never quite felt like she's earned. Every Forrester before her built something. Every Forrester before her had a moment where the industry stopped and paid attention. Electra has watched that happen to everyone around her for years, while she waited for her own turn. And now that RJ has finally handed her one, she isn't just excited about it, she's terrified of losing it. That fear is exactly why she can't let a moment like the one with Dylan go unanswered. To Electra, backing down isn't just embarrassing, it's proof that maybe she doesn't actually belong at the top of this company after all. And that is a thought she cannot afford to sit with for even a second. Now let's slow down for a second, because not every fracture in this story is loud. Some of them are quiet, and quiet can be so much more devastating. Carter Walton has spent weeks watching his marriage to Daphne dissolve, not from lack of love, but from something crueler: fear. Daphne has been diagnosed with something that has completely reshaped how she sees her own future, and instead of leaning on Carter, she has been pulling away from him, convinced that staying will only mean watching him build a life around a diagnosis instead of around her. She hands him back her wedding rings, and it's one of the most gutting moments this story has offered in a long time, not because it's dramatic, but because it's the opposite. It's quiet, it's resigned, it's a woman who loves someone so much she thinks the kindest thing she can do is let him go before he has to. But love rarely gives up that easily, and Carter and Daphne are about to reach something that isn't quite reconciliation, but isn't goodbye either. Call it an understanding. Maybe she stays in Los Angeles a while longer, taking things one day at a time instead of running from a future she can't control. Maybe she still goes, but promises to come back. Either way, something shifts between them, a fragile, tentative decision to stop treating fear as the only option on the table. And that's when Ridge Forrester steps in, because Daphne, still carrying all of this uncertainty, ends up confiding in him. Ridge has known Carter for years, has watched him fall for people before, and never quite liked this. And when Daphne explains why she gave the rings back, why she genuinely believes she can't give Carter the life he deserves, Ridge doesn't let that sit unanswered. He tells her plainly that he has never seen Carter feel this way about anyone, and he gently pushes her to consider staying, to consider fighting for this instead of protecting Carter from a future that hasn't even happened yet. Ridge can't make this decision for her. Nobody can. But sometimes the right words from the right person at the right moment are enough to change everything, and Daphne is about to have to decide if she believes him. What makes Daphne's fear so hard to argue with is that it doesn't come from a lack of love, it comes from an abundance of it. She isn't pulling away from Carter because she doubts how he feels. She's pulling away because she's already grieving a version of their future she was never promised in the first place. And some part of her genuinely believes that walking away now is a mercy, sparing him years of watching a diagnosis slowly take over both of their lives. It's the kind of logic that only makes sense from the inside of real fear, the belief that loving someone means protecting them from yourself. Carter doesn't see it that way at all. To him, that's not protection. That's abandonment dressed up as selflessness, and the two of them are going to have to find a way to speak the same language about what love actually owes a person before either of them can move forward with any real peace. Here's where it gets complicated, though, because Carter isn't just leaning on Daphne's uncertainty in isolation. He's also still carrying whatever happened that night in Monte Carlo with Steffi, and as his marriage teeters somewhere between broken and repairable, he keeps finding himself pulled back toward the one person who understood exactly what he was feeling in that hotel room. Steffi's marriage is in its own kind of crisis, Finn desperately trying to prove he's still trustworthy, and in the middle of all of that chaos, Carter is there, steady, listening, present in a way that starts to feel like more than friendship. Neither of them is chasing anything. That's what makes it dangerous. This isn't two people plotting an affair, it's two people who keep ending up in each other's orbit at exactly the moments they're most vulnerable. And if you've watched enough of this show to know how these things go, you already know that vulnerability has a way of becoming something neither of them intended and something they're going to have a very hard time hiding once it's out in the open. Let's go back to Bikini, because that's where two storylines are about to physically collide in the most uncomfortable way possible. Will and Dylan walk in, and Electra and RJ are already there, apparently out celebrating the momentum building around the youth line. It's awkward in the way only real history can make a room awkward. Will trying not to look like he's staring, Electra trying not to look like she cares, and everyone in that restaurant silently doing the math on what this run-in means. Maybe Will's just hanging around while Dylan works her shift. Maybe it's something more, a real step forward he hasn't said out loud yet. But seeing Electra there, glowing with RJ at her side, celebrating a version of her life that no longer includes him, might be exactly the push Will needs to stop hesitating and finally let himself move forward with Dylan for real. And that's precisely what happens. In the days that follow, Will and Dylan finally cross the line they've both been circling for weeks, and this time, there's no pretending it didn't mean anything. They wake up together, and for a moment, it feels like something good and uncomplicated in a story that has had very little of either lately. But nothing in this world stays simple for long. Katie is going to find out, and she is not going to hide her disapproval, not because she dislikes Dylan exactly, but because she's terrified of watching her son get hurt again in a family drama that never seems to end. And there's a much sharper danger lurking underneath all of it. If Electra finds out that Dylan slept with Will, the professional relationship between them isn't just going to sour, it's going to detonate. Electra has already made it painfully clear how she handles people who cross her. If this gets back to her, Dylan may not have a choice left but to walk away from Forrester Creations entirely, and the frightening part is that Electra might not even hesitate before making that decision for her. Because here's the truth about Electra Forrester right now, the thing underneath all that swagger. Rejection is the one thing she cannot tolerate. Losing Will was already a wound to her pride. Watching him fall for her own best friend in the same world she's trying to conquer could push her from confident into something far more volatile. And volatile people in positions of power tend to leave a lot of damage behind them before anyone manages to stop them. There's a bitter irony sitting right in the middle of this triangle that's worth pointing out. Electra is the one who ended things with Will. She's the one who walked away, who has spent weeks building a new identity for herself that has nothing to do with him. And yet the idea of him choosing someone else, choosing happiness with someone else, still lands like a betrayal she never agreed to. That's not really about Will at all anymore. It's about control, about the quiet, uncomfortable truth that some people don't need to want a relationship to still want the power of being the one who could end it. Watching Will move on without her permission might end up being the exact thing that finally shows everyone around her, including RJ, just how far she's willing to go to avoid feeling powerless. Right in the middle of all this tension, someone new walks into town, and her arrival is going to shake up nearly every relationship in this story. Her name is Darcy Dillon, and she is Dylan's mother, And from the moment she steps off the plane, it's clear she is not here to quietly observe. Word is, she's going to go head-to-head with Katie almost immediately. Two protective, strong-willed women squaring off over their children's tangled love lives, neither one willing to back down first. But Darcy's approach to Will is going to be completely different, warm, approving even, which is going to make Katie's resistance feel even more isolating by comparison. And Electra should be worried, because a mother who has just watched her daughter get threatened and disrespected by a Forrester is not going to sit quietly on the sidelines. Darcy has some things to say to Electra, and judging by everything we know about her so far, she is not going to soften a single word of it. There's also a name from the past that Darcy hasn't forgotten, someone named Remy, and there are strong signs she is not finished with him either. Whatever happened between them, whatever role he played in getting Electra elected into her current position of influence, Darcy seems to know more than she's let on, and there's a real possibility she's about to expose something that Remy's own family has no idea he did. If that secret comes out, it isn't just going to embarrass him. It could unravel the very foundation Electra and RJ have been building this entire youth line on top of. Everything we know about Darcy so far suggests she is not the kind of mother who watches from a distance while her daughter gets pushed around. She is direct, she is unafraid of confrontation, and she seems to arrive already carrying information the rest of this cast doesn't know she has. That combination, a protective mother with secrets in her back pocket, is exactly the kind of variable that tends to blow a story wide open, because Darcy isn't operating from assumptions. If she starts talking, and everything about her suggests she will, several people in this story are going to have to answer for choices they thought were buried for good. Meanwhile, Taylor's own love life is hitting a wall of its own. Deacon has been patient, present, quietly hoping that everything he and Taylor have built together might finally lead somewhere permanent, and when he finally works up the courage to propose, Taylor turns him down. It's not necessarily the end of things between them, but it's a serious blow, and the two of them are heading into a rocky stretch that's going to test whether their relationship can survive rejection at this level, especially with Taylor already stretched thin trying to hold her daughter's marriage together from the outside. And speaking of that marriage, Sheila isn't done yet. She returns to Los Angeles, and whatever she tells herself about her intentions, showing up at Finn's workplace to try to make amends, is not going to land the way she hopes. Because it's not really about whether her apology is sincere. It's about what her presence keeps doing to Steffi every single time it happens. And it happens again. Steffi catches Finn with Sheila once more, and something in her finally reaches its breaking point. This isn't just about trust anymore. It's about whether Steffi can keep living a life where Sheila Carter gets to exist in the same room as her family, again and again, no matter how many times everyone promises it's the last time. There's one more person who isn't going to let this slide quietly, and that's Lee Finnegan, Finn's adoptive mother. Lee has complicated feelings about Sheila, some sympathy buried underneath years of caution, but stalking her own son's marriage across an ocean is a line even Lee isn't willing to excuse. Expect her to confront Sheila directly, not with the desperate hope of reforming her, but with the blunt honesty of someone who has run out of patience for excuses. Lee has spent years occupying a strange middle ground when it comes to Sheila, close enough to see flashes of genuine humanity in her, distant enough to never fully trust what that humanity is worth. But there's a difference between quiet sympathy and active enabling, and stalking her own son's marriage across an ocean pushes Sheila firmly into territory Lee isn't willing to excuse away anymore, no matter how much history the two of them share. And somewhere in the middle of all this, Sheila might finally say the words everyone has been waiting years to hear, that she'll back away quietly, that she'll let Steffi win. But here's the question worth sitting with. Does anyone in this story actually believe her? Because if Finn loses Steffi over this, he is not going to forgive his mother for it. And Sheila, more than anyone, understands that every single thing she does right now could be the very thing that finally pushes her son away for good. So here's where we're left standing, a marriage hanging by a thread between guilt and grief. A woman drunk on new power, one insult away from losing everyone who still loves her. A mother about to go to war for her son and lose the fight before she even realizes it started. A secret bond quietly forming between two people who both promised themselves it would never happen. And a new arrival in town who already knows more than she's letting on, about a boyfriend who won't leave well enough alone, and a secret that could burn down everything Electra and RJ have built before it even gets off the ground. What ties every single one of these threads together, if you step back and really look at it, is the same quiet, dangerous idea that the people closest to us are the easiest ones to underestimate. Katie underestimates how ready Will actually is to make his own choices. Electra underestimates how far a mother like Darcy will go to protect her daughter. Finn underestimates how much silence costs the people who trust him. And Steffi and Carter, without ever meaning to, are underestimating exactly how much damage two lonely, well-intentioned people can do to everyone around them when they mistake comfort for something safer than it actually is. None of them see the collision coming. That's what makes it a collision instead of a decision. Which fracture do you think breaks first? Is it Steffi and Finn, finally reaching the point where sorry isn't enough anymore? Is it Electra, discovering that Dylan and Will crossed a line she can never forgive? Or is it Carter and Steffi, letting something dangerous become something undeniable? Tell me down in the comments who you think doesn't survive this stretch of story intact, and if you want to be here the moment the next chapter drops, make sure you're subscribed, because this story is about to get a whole lot messier before it gets any better. Whatever answer you land on, stick around, because this cast is about to prove, once again, that in this world, the quietest moments are usually the ones that end up costing the most. I'm Adam, this has been Buzz Delight, and I will see you in the next one.